Hi everyone, I was flicking through this book looking for something to colour actually from it. This is Daydreams by Hanna Karlzon, and I found this page with all these little mushrooms on, and I thought it might be a rather fun page to do as a series of 6 videos. I have done mushroom ones from Hanna before. This is nice, isn't it? I don't know when I did this, ages and ages ago. Yeah, anyway. But I thought we would do some of these. Maybe we could try and replicate this. It looks really shiny. Anyway, we'll come in closer to our first mushroom and then decide what we're going to do with it. Let's come in a little bit. There we go. Now we've got a lot of these little dots on it, and they are supposed to be 3-dimensional. We can tell this because they're standing out over this top line, so I'm going to bear that in mind as a colour. I'm using Polychromos pencils, by the way. I was going to use Prismacolor, and then I looked at the teeny details and decided that Polychromos were probably the better way to go. I'm actually going to start with these gills underneath and then work from there, really, because I haven't decided what I'm doing for the top. So this is a walnut brown. I'm just using a dark brown, could be anyone. And how I like to do these is where the really dark line is, I'm going to colour over that line with quite a few layers and then fade the colour as I move away. I'm going to do the same on this one, moving towards the one I've done already, like that. You can leave it a little bit of white if you want to. I'm not sure I want to leave it completely white. And take your time. It's quite a lovely thing to do, I think, this sort of colouring action. Just gentle layers. And as you look at it, you can see it starts to look a little bit more 3-dimensional. I don't tend to always look at colours of real mushrooms or toadstools to base my colouring on. It's quite fun to do it from your imagination. But these gills are based on the types of mushrooms that I would buy from the shop to eat. But obviously I don't think I've ever seen any with sort of speckles on that I've eaten, not like this sort of 3D bits. I suspect these aren't of the edible variety. I'm going to sharpen up my pencil a little bit. It's actually quite sharp, but I've got some really little spaces to get into. So I just want to keep going with the sharper tip. Like that. The sun has just come out, which is unexpected, but it's been really we've already had a rain storm. Well, not really a storm, but some rain. It's the second day in a row we've had rain, which is so needed. With a lot of parts of the country are sort of in drought, in that the water companies have put hosepipe bans into effect. I was reading about what a hosepipe ban is, because I wasn't completely sure. I mean, I realised that it's meant that you can't water your garden with a hosepipe, but how restrictive is it? So I was having a little look, and it said if you've just newly planted grass, you're allowed to water it for the first month, I think that's what it said. But anything else, you're supposed to use a watering can. And we're going to do the same with the other side. And you're not supposed to use a hose for washing your car, or like, jet washing your driveway or anything like that. And it would seem a little bit inconsiderate when reservoir levels are very low to do that. But I understood that the county that I live in was the one that had the least amount of rainfall this year so far. However, we don't actually have a ban at the moment. I suppose that just shows that maybe our reservoirs are bigger or something like that. I'm not really sure. It might be that people just don't use as much water down in this area. we, for example, have a water meter, which means we pay for every bit of water we use. So it makes you a little bit cautious about making sure you're not overusing it, which I think is a good thing. I think we should be sort of responsible, I suppose. But there is talk of them possibly, because of the hot, dry summers that we're getting more so now, perhaps with our water meters, charging more for summer use compared to winter use, because obviously that's when it's scarcer. It's an interesting idea, but of course bills are usually less in the summer, which is rather nice. You get to worry quite so much about affording things. I mean, not that I'm lucky, we don't normally have to worry about, affording essentials really, but we're very careful and, you know, think things through. I want to do red. I do like a red mushroom, and that's where I'm going to start. Now these ones over here are interesting because they're darker on the edges and lighter in the middle, whereas I think for this one I'm going to make it darker at the bottom and lighter at the top. Maybe I've just changed my style of colouring mushrooms since I did that one a long time ago actually. This is middle cadmium red, and this is where I'm starting. It's going to be my darkest red. So if you're not using red, or you're not using these pencils, pick your darkest one here, and I'm going to put quite a thick layer along the bottom, and then just sort of try and put a little bit less as I go up, fade it a bit, so that then you can blend it into your next colour. Now we've got to go around all these little dots. Now if that's really hard for you to do, colour over them, and then you can draw them back in with a white pen if you've got a white pen, or put a little blob of paint on there, something like that, or colour them in darker than your pencil afterwards. You know, there are lots of different tricks to, you know, I've gone over the line there. I'm probably going to use a white pen on these eventually, but I'm going to try and colour around them because I just want to imagine what it might look like, if that makes sense. But I'm going to do this bit in the dark red. There we go. But we don't really use more water in. I suppose I've been watering the garden a little bit, but not massively. I try to be mindful, and I think, well, try and not do it every single day. Even though I've got pots, so they do dry out. This is deep red. Yeah, I try not to water every day, and I try to think about what the forecast is, and if we forecast rain, then I don't water and things like that. And what else do? I try to get people not to be too long in the shower. That's hard work. But there we go, different things, you know. We don't run the water when we brush our teeth. I used to as a child. We just would do tap running all the time when brushing teeth. I think my mum used to prefer it because it would wash the paste straight down, any paste that dropped into the sink, whereas I find that it tends to stick because it's not washed immediately or doesn't have constant water running on it. It's harder to get the paste out of the sink, but I just rub it with my finger and then it disappears. So it's not that much of a hardship, is it? And it saves us money and helps, you know, preserve the water. But I think we are lucky in the UK, despite the fact that, you know, we might be getting this sort of hosepipe ban. The water supply here is very good. I'm using the light cadmium red now. I'm just going to give it a sharpen. This is sort of my lightest red. We're going to move up towards an orange. I'm still going to go back over everything. I think it will just help to burnish it, meaning it helps to intensify the colour, push it down into the tooth of the paper. Now Hannah's books are fairly toothy, not to the extent that it's annoying, but it means you can add lots of layers. But you do need to you know, sometimes layer up a bit, but the pages are quite thick. I mean, I'm only talking about my copies of her books, and of course they're published in all sorts of different countries, so whether the paper's the same in each is not always easy to know. But I have got one of her books on pre-order I'm quite excited about. She's got a new English version of her Christmas book coming out, which I am getting. I think it's August, so not long. So that's exciting. I ordered it from... Did I order it from Waterstones? I think it was in Waterstones. I'm not sure. I may have ordered it from Amazon. I can't remember now. But I got that on pre-order, so as soon as that arrives I will show you. I'll do a little flip through and you can decide. Now when it came out in its foreign language edition, original edition from iMusic, I did look at a flip through. I thought about it and I decided that I had so many books I didn't need another one. How many of you have thought that? But it was so pretty. Ooh. It was hit the pencil on the tripod and then it bounced around the desk. Dark cadmium orange. Luckily it's a Polychromos, so it's very robust. With this one I'm not going to go right down to the bottom because I want that red to look red, so I'm going to start sort of where I started the orange, around here, and then take the colour almost right up. Yeah, so I saw a flip through and it was so pretty and I was like, I want it, you know how it is. And then they sold out. So it's now available in the English edition in August. She's also got a Halloween book coming out. Now that one's only available from Bocus and iMusic. Now iMusic does export across Europe and the USA. I don't know if all of the world, but it's pretty good. So that's one worth thinking about if you're interested in the Halloween book. Halloween isn't really my thing, so I sort of thought no, but I don't know. You know me, I might change my mind, I might not. But I will put together a colouring book index sheet for the Halloween as soon as I see a flip through. Now I'm going back through my mushroom, colouring over the bits that I've missed that aren't properly burnished, to just finish it off. And hopefully you can see that it's a little bit darker at the bottom than the top, and that isn't because there's less layers of colour, but that's because we used the darker colour here and the lighter colour here. So it's fairly, we only use 4 colours and it's quite a thin mushroom, but you can see the effect you get. I'm just getting my brush out. Now the dots. The problem we have with the dots is if we use a white pen on them and do it on the whole of the black bit, these ones here would sort of almost disappear. So I've got to have a little think about how to approach them. We want them to look 3D, so we want a bit of shadow underneath them. I tried that with the ones over here, it didn't work particularly well. And if you put a white pen top and leave the black underneath, it can look a little bit more three-dimensional. But also the colour that you colour the dot can make a difference as well. So what are we going to do? I think I'm going to grab, where's my nougat? There it is. So I'm going to grab the nougat pencil and I'm going to do a little bit of work on the dots with this. Really sharp. I realise they're very small. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pick a big one and show you. So this one here, what I'm going to do is do a darkish bit at the bottom and then sort of just trail it off so that it's white at the top. And I'm going to do that on all of them, and if I can, I will undoubtedly accidentally fill some of them completely or not put enough. It's just fiddly work, but I will do my best. I can see a lot of areas here where it could do with a bit more red on my mushroom. Now, you do have to be careful when you're doing this and thinking that sort of thing. I've messed that one up. You can be very self-critical and think, well, I've done it wrong. But actually, it's okay as long as you go back and improve it, or improve it next time. It's fine. But don't get down on yourself. You know, we're all learning. We're all going to make little mistakes or have little quirks to our picture, and it's okay. Right, I've done the best I can there. I am going to get a red. I'm actually going to get the deep red. Just do a little bit more here around some of these. It's just not quite as burnished as I had hoped it would be. And you can fiddle and faddle with yours as well, you know, until you're completely happy. I'm now going to use the what's this? The light cadmium red. It's your piece of work. So if you feel that you're not 100% happy, just fiddle a little bit. It's quite good, worth doing sometimes. It can make a huge difference. Now, why I was struggling just now was my eyes. Eyes are going a little bit blurred from doing this really close-up work. This is the dark cadmium orange. I'm just going to top it. So, but I moved my head a bit and squinted, and then I could see where I had not done it as well as I would have liked. So I'm going back over it. There we go. If you do struggle to see, magnifying glasses are good, because then you don't have to hold. I mean, as good as a magnifying glass can be, but you've got to hold something in one hand while you colour with the other, and that, I find that a little frustrating. Now, I'm going to use my white jelly roll to put a bit of white on the top of each of these. I know I usually leave the white pen to the end, but what I want to do is put it on and see what it looks like, so that I can decide whether I want to add more colour, more shadow underneath, or colour on top, or whatever. But I'm going to decide in a minute. Once it's dry and it's on, I will have a think about it while I do the stem. And because this bit's at the top and I'll be dealing with the stem at the bottom, I'm not going to smudge it, she says confidently. I will try not to. If I do, I do. It's not a disaster, you know. You can actually scrape off white pen a little bit sometimes. If you apply it thickly, it chips off. Otherwise, you can colour over it with a pencil. So there are methods of getting around it if you do it a little bit wrong. I used to, find pens quite scary because it's difficult to correct your mistake, but actually it's not as difficult as I used to think. You know, you can colour pencil over pen, and sometimes it chips it off if it's a paint pen like this or a Posca, but that's okay, because if you're trying to get rid of it, it doesn't matter. And sometimes you can just layer on top. So you can, obviously it depends. If you're using a really dark colour, it's a little bit more difficult, but a dark colour pen. But there are ways and means, you know. It's I always feel sad when people say they've thrown away a picture or given up on it or whatever, because there are all sorts of little tips and tricks for getting around a page that you think is ruined. A page is never ruined. There's always some work that can be done to improve and to rescue, shall we say. Now I'm going to grab my nougat again. I want a little bit of brown in our stem, not too much because I don't want it to sort of disappear into the gills part, but I'm going to put a little bit of brown, particularly in these areas where there are dots drawn on the stem here and here. Look, it's a little bit, I think it's indicating it's shadowy really, but that's okay. I'm just going to put a bit on the edge. What I really want to do is to make it look a little bit like a French grey rather than just a warm grey, because we don't have a French grey in our Polychromos. I'm just going to do it all over, you know. Then we have to make it, let's just do it as a sort of base. There we go. I'll start with that, and then I'm going to add some grey and we'll see whether it works. I'll make it work. I'm confident with that. This is called warm grey 4, sorry. So now we're starting our actual grey work. Now with the stem, we want it to look like it's rounded, like a cylinder, rather than just a flat thing. So in order to do that, we want the edge a bit darker. So as I'm coming towards the middle, I'm putting less grey down. Okay, so this edge, dark, thick grey, not too dark. And then less as we come in towards the middle, like that. But we also do want this shadow under here, because that the cap would be creating a bit of a shadow like that. But we also want to make this look a little bit three-dimensional. Now that's okay, it's not brilliant. I'm going to come back and do some more in a different colour in a minute. So again, under here, the skirt, we can put a shadow like that, as is indicated, and then down the edge. And just gently fade it towards the middle. There we go. I'm at a bit of a loss today. The tennis is now finished. Wimbledon. What do I do? What am I going to do all day? I've got plenty of plans, don't you worry. But it's like, right, I'm going to use a really dark. This is the warm grey 6. This is the darkest warm grey. I'm just going to use it right on the edge here and then fade it quite quickly into the other colour. I just want to create a really dark edge bit here. I think it's going to help with this sort of illusion that it's more rounded. You know, colour it over the black line. See, if you want to eliminate the black line, there are two ways of doing it. One way, you can cover it with a white pen. This paper is cream. If I colour that line with a white pen, you're going to see the white pen rather than the black line. That isn't really what I want to go for. However, if I cover it with this dark grey pen, it might just disappear a little bit. But another method for getting rid of it, just if you're, is to going to go back to that back to the warm grey 4 and just put another layer coming in. Another way is to do a black background, and then your lines on the outside will just disappear. Or a dark background, it helps the lines to just vanish a little bit. But to be honest, I don't normally worry too much about the lines. I don't find they're really that offensive to me. This is the warm grey 6. I'm just going to do it underneath. I realise it gives things a little bit more of a realistic look, but because I don't feel that my colouring is so realistic you would mistake it for a photograph, then I don't actually see the point. But obviously it would be practice if it was something I wanted to do in the future. Right, a lighter grey now. We'll go for the warm grey 3. Needs a sharpen. And what we're doing, we're bringing the colour towards the centre. Oh, looks like the sun's out again. Rain, sun, rain, sun. It's going to be one of those days. So we want a light bit in the middle. Yeah, I'm hoping I can find a little dry spot patch to go out. I'm waiting for a notification on my phone to go bling, because I've got waiting to pick up some prescriptions from the chemist, and they'll message me when it's ready. So they were really busy yesterday, but I'm expecting them to be ready today, but we'll see. I think being a Monday made them, they were extra busy. So there is that bit. And we just got this skirty bit to do. Now I like to do this in a little bit of a lighter colour. I usually think they're lighter. I don't know whether they really are or not. So I'm actually going to start with, changing my mind, with a warm grey 1 and just do a layer, light layer Ooh, that's got a bit of orange or something in it. I don't know what that is. Whether that is, I'm just going to find an eraser. Whether that is that there was, sorry about the rustling. Whether there was a bit of colour left on the pencil, or whether that's a bit of pigment in the lead that's coming out. I think it's pigment. If you look really closely to the leads of your pencil, sometimes you can see a bit of pigment that hasn't been properly mixed in. It's really rare to happen with a Polychromos. I've had it happen only once before. Right, warm grey 2 next. So yeah, that's rare. I usually have it, the one most common is the chartreuse in the Prismacolor. That does it all the time to me. Number 2. Now we've got a bit under here which is shadowy. I think I'm actually going to grab my warm grey 3 and do that first. Like that. And then I'm going to use the 2 to mark out where I think. So here, this is sort of like there's 2 bits here. Like there's a sort of separation here. And then this bit. Just doing the edges a little bit more than the centre. And the same with this bit. To try and make it look like it's in little rounded shapes. Quite hard to explain what I mean. It's all very well talking for a living, but you do need to sometimes know the words, and I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say. I think that one's flat back, whereas this bit looks like it's a bit more curved. And that bit. Yeah, we've got a bit of shape going on. I might emphasise that a little more with my coal grey 3. I'm just going to make sure it's nice and sharp and sort of put in where I think shadows will be. So here and here, back here. There we go. Okay. Now I'm just having a little look at the top here. So just point with my eraser and looking at these little circles. Do they look 3D? Do they need a bit more? Now I could put more shadow underneath each of them to try and make them look a little bit more 3-dimensional. They're so small, it's a little bit difficult. I might just grab the dark sepia, my mini dark sepia, sharpen it really hard. I think rather than putting a shadow underneath, I'm going to put a dark line just at the bottom of each of our little circular blobs and see if that makes much of a difference. It's up to you to decide whether it's something you can be bothered with, whether you think it makes a difference or whether it's just a bit too fiddly for you. I know some of you struggle with little fiddly bits, and that's absolutely fair, and I'm sure you can't see what I'm doing. I expect it's gone blurred. You can just have a good look at my hand. It's ever so exciting. Yeah, little details are quite tricky, aren't they? Even with the sharpest of pencils and the steadiest of hands and the best eyesight, they can still be quite tricky. So any of you that struggle with hand cramps, with shaky hands, with poor eyesight, with you know, all of those things just makes it quite fiddly. And I don't luckily have shaky hands, but I can struggle with eyesight. I think that has made them look more 3D, but in my head I know that that's what I was trying to do. So maybe my brain is just tricking me into thinking that that's worked. But who knows? I've had a go and I'm happy with that. I'm going to finish there with my mushroom. I'm quite happy with it. The only thing you might want to change up is, and let me just point with my eraser. This area here in the gills would probably be darker than this area here. But I think if I put too much dark shadow in here, it's going to diminish the effect of these lines. So I've decided that I'm going to ignore the fact that there should be shadow there and just enjoy the effect of the sort of gill lines. And we've got 3 others with gills, so we might do it a little bit differently for the others, but I'm sort of happy with how this one is looking. So there we are, there is our first one. My plan is to do each one a different colour, because it's nice to show you different ideas and different things, and to experiment maybe with a few different techniques and things like that as well. So hopefully you'll pop along for the next ones as well to see what I'm going to be up to. But thank you for watching today. Enjoy the rest of your day and happy colouring.